So the student rentals to us it was a good part. I don't regret buying them ever. We actually still have them all because they all perform really well. Like the prices everywhere, especially in Guelph, like they've skyrocketed. So like we have crazy equity in those places, and they've been able to fund other properties that we bought since then. But I mean,
we love students.
Students are great tenants. Like a lot of people give students a hard time, but they're awesome. We've had such great experience with tenants. Our places are really nice. We get great students. No one has never, knock on wood, not paid their rent. No one's trashed the place. Like.
Matt and Laura, how are you guys doing?
Hey, great. How are you?
Awesome.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you.
Yeah, this will be fun. This will be fun. You guys have been to a few of our events.
Yeah.
And every time I'm talking to you guys, you're always working on something. Yeah. Like you've always got something going on. You always got a new project going on. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's great for you guys to come in and let me kind of just share your story, your journey with anybody that listens to me, which is a few people, and kind of share what you guys are doing, because you guys do a lot of work out in the Peterborough area, the Kawartha Lakes, and it looks like you guys are crushing it out there.
Yeah, we're definitely keeping busy.
Yeah.
We have our hands in everything and always doing something. You're right. We're always up to something.
Yeah. And you guys have young kids as well too, right?
We do. Yeah. They're 4, or actually 5, almost 5, 6, and 8. So yeah, they're young.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
That's going to keep you busy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're always running kids around somewhere. Yeah. All the activities and sports and whatever. Yeah. It's a fun stage of life for sure.
Yeah. Because when they're at that age, they're so dependent on you.
They are,
They need even when you say, I need 1 minute, give me 1 minute. 1 minute means literally to them.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
They'll nag you like 10 times in that 1 minute too.
Yeah.
Cool. Is this one of the reasons why you got into real estate investing, because of your kids, or was there something else that allowed or made you decide that this is what I need to do? Like what got you into it?
Yeah, I mean, we probably both have different but similar answers. Like we started real estate long before we had kids. So Matt and I we started dating in high school. We've been together forever. I think we've always just been very driven people, and kind of always, well, like for me, it's really important to be able to live life the way we want to live it on our own terms, have that kind of financial freedom, but really time freedom. And as since having kids, that's really made that even more important to me. Being able to spend time with our kids and having that flexibility, not having to work a 9 to 5. So it's something I think that started kind of before we had kids, just with the way we live our life. We're very like hardworking, driven people. But I think having kids just really brought that like to the next level and really made us appreciate kind of all the work that we did in the 15 years before we had kids. And now we can appreciate it and continue to grow that for them and for us. So I think it's kind of two. I don't know if you have a different perspective, but.
Yeah, I think our answer would have been way different 10 years ago than it is now. Like maybe even 5 years ago, we would have said, we're self-employed, we have no pension, real estate's our pension. It's going to pay off when we're 60 years old and we want to retire and we can start selling properties, or the mortgages are paid off and we've finally got some good cash flow. And like that was our strategy then. And we've been investing for like 18 years, something like that now. It was pretty slow at the beginning, but we didn't really reap any short-term rewards of real estate until like 3 years ago. We sold a property in 2020 and took the proceeds and put a pool in our backyard. That was like the first time that we
ever did anything.
We ever spent any of the money that we made off of real estate. And now, like, I'd say that we've just become like savvy real estate investors in the last couple of years. Like the first 16 years was, will it break even? If it will, let's just buy it and we'll break even every month. And over time, it will pay down the mortgage. And we were trying to pay down some mortgages pretty aggressively and didn't really understand the value of kind of proper leverage. And we didn't have much cash flow and we didn't raise rents. And there's all kinds of things that we weren't doing. Like we didn't do proper BRRRRs. We probably didn't really do our first proper BRRRR until like 3 months ago.
Thanks for being honest.
Yeah.
We will always be honest. Yeah.
Like our BRRRRs were like, buy a student rental. That's how we started. Renovate it to suit a proper student rental. Like usually there weren't 5 or 6 bedrooms in the house. So you'd have to convert it to having kind of the maximum amount of bedrooms that you could properly fit in there, rent it out to students. then 5 years later when the mortgage is up, then refinance and pull some money out. But it was just like the slowest burrs ever. And we've kind of done that our whole real estate career. And then in 2021, we bought a few other properties. We did a massive reno to a triplex in Peterborough, sunk a bunch of money into this reno, and didn't really want to refi because we were on a variable, but it was a static variable, and we locked in at like the lowest interest rates ever. And so our payment was cheap, and we hadn't hit the trigger rate. And if we refied, we were going to be into like way higher payment. So we still haven't refied that one, but it's just been the last couple of duplex conversions that we've actually done normal burrs for. But.
Right. Okay. So you've been investing in real estate now, you said, I think 18 years. So
I think 2004.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, and so, it's interesting listening to that story, because what I heard from that is that you just wanted to buy investment properties and knew that it was you're going to reap the rewards in the future.
Yeah.
Who cares? Just let it break even. Where now, it's like this, especially in 2020, 2021, and I guess even the beginning of 2022, I was talking about this the other day. It felt as if there was no fear in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel that as well too? Like all the fear was gone.
Yeah.
Everybody was an expert. Everybody was like a guru. And it was just like, it was gone. And now there's fear in the marketplace again. And I'm like, oh, this is a great time to be investing again.
Yeah.
Because there should always be some element of fear. Don't you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
It's kind of opposite to what it should be too, because like in the second half of 2020 and all of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022, there was way more downside risk than there was upside potential. So people should have been kind of scared of that situation. And now I don't really know where it's at, but maybe the upside potential and the downside risk is even, or there's like more opportunity that if you buy something for $600,000, that it's going to go up in value. I think the likelihood is higher now than it was back in 2022, when it seems like we're in a bubble that needs to burst at some point. Like at that point, I didn't know whether it was going to be spring of 2022 or it was going to be fall of 2024. Like I didn't really know, but it seemed like it couldn't keep going on the way that it was, whereas now it could keep going on the way that it is.
Right. And this is, I think, where now you do a reset. Well, and I think not even just a reset, maybe for people who got into it and got themselves into trouble, to say, hold on, I really need to pay attention to fundamentals. Yeah. I think it almost got to this point where some of the fundamentals had been thrown out the window. Like I'll just buy any and anything. It doesn't matter because I can just throw a dart on that dartboard and it's going to stick.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? And I mean, I don't know if I want to get into this because I'm always wanting to know what the crystal ball is, but where do you see things potentially going? And then number 2, what is it that you're doing in regards to purchasing properties in this market, or you guys even continue to purchase properties in this market?
Yeah, we've been buying kind of this whole time through this like most recent dip. Our strategy has just been to kind of not buy a whole bunch of stuff at once. Like because we refied our properties and had a whole bunch of mortgages come up kind of at the same time in like 2021, 2022, we had some capital to put to work. So instead of just buying it all when we felt like the first dip was coming, we've just been slowly kind of buying like every couple months. And that takes, I don't know, we love buying real estate. We love real estate. So it takes some kind of self-control when you see like a good deal, you're like, I really want that one, but this one looks great too, because there have been a lot of great deals out there, right? So we've just been kind of slowly buying, but we've really always stuck to our fundamentals. Like we're pretty boring real estate investors and pretty conservative. Excuse me. So even when things were going crazy in 2020, 2021, we're sticking to what you're constantly learning about what we understood to be the fundamentals at that point. And our expectations of how our properties performed has changed a lot since we were buying like our student rentals like back in the day. So all the stuff that we bought now has been more cash flowing, more like just better performing properties. So I think I went on a bit of a tangent there, but really we have been continuing to buy. This dip in the market has just really provided better opportunities for us to keep doing that and to get better deals than we were able to get before.
Right. Yeah. So when you first bought your investment properties, what strategy were you guys deploying? And then how has it changed and evolved over the years? Besides actually making sure they're legal now or doing them correctly. And I think that's kind of the norm in the beginning, right? He's like, hey, I just want to get into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you buy in terrible areas because you're also looking for cheap properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've only really done that once, but the first property that I bought before Laura and I were married was a cottage on Stony Lake with my parents. That there was this rundown cottage across the lake from my parents' cottage. And it was for sale, and my parents had been giving me a hard time about spending money on stupid stuff. I had a Volkswagen Jetta that was lowered and all souped up. And
this is like 2000.
Every paycheck that I had went towards buying new exhaust or intake or something for my stupid Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah. You too, huh? You too. And
we were together at the time. Yeah. I was in university. I didn't have any money. Matt
sound system, and tints. And we've all been there.
Yeah. That was the time.
So my mom said that if I didn't stop spending money on stupid stuff like that, I was going to start spending money on rent towards them. And then this cottage came up for sale, and I don't remember if it was my idea or their idea to buy it and short-term rent it, but we did that and fixed it up, and it was not insulated. There was no heat, so it was only really like a May to October rental. There was a wood stove in there, so you could heat it up with the wood stove, but you weren't going there in the winter. And that was fine for a while. Like, I was like 21 years old. I'd have my buddies up at the cottage, and then you'd get a call from the renters that the septic system was backing up, or
there were bats in the cottage.
Yeah, we had like repeated bats living in the cottage, and it was okay, but we would make decent money in the summer, and then over the winter we would pay mortgage payments, we would pay insurance, and it kind of just like broke even. Like, there was no cash flow. And one of my colleagues at the time was he had a student rental in Waterloo, and it sounded like a better setup than what we had. So I said to my parents that I wanted to sell the cottage. They didn't want to sell, so they bought me out. And I bought the first student rental in Guelph.
We still have it.
We still have it, yeah. And then, I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, Laura was in Guelph doing something at our student rental and saw that the house across the street was for sale, like for sale by owner. So we went and talked to them and bought the one across the street. And then
it's like very slowly.
Yeah, we just bought another student rental like every 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So it sounds like student rentals. So started off with the cottage, then you went to student rentals.
Yeah.
And then when you went to the student rentals, were they cash flowing or were they just breaking even as well too?
They were cash flowing. So we would renovate them and they would cash flow kind of on a monthly basis by a couple $100s. But we were doing, for the first couple, like we did the work ourselves, like Matt finished the basement with his friends and stuff like that. But yeah, on like a monthly basis, it would kind of cash flow with the mortgage that we had. But then in going to 2017, we bought our last student rental, and then
it didn't cash flow.
It didn't cash flow.
We borrowed we used a HELOC for the down payment, and then we got a mortgage on it. And by the time you pay the interest payment on the HELOC and the mortgage payment, I think it was bleeding $100 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing crazy.
No.
Okay, so now let's take a look back at the properties that you bought, those student rentals.
Yeah.
And the cottage. What were the mistakes maybe that you made with any of those particular properties? Were there just not enough rooms in there? You know, higher and best use? Like what would you have done looking back?
Yes, that's a tough question. So the student rentals to us it was a good part. I don't regret buying them ever. We actually still have them all because they all perform really well. Like the prices everywhere, especially in Guelph, like they've skyrocketed. So like we have crazy equity in those places and they've been able to fund other properties that we bought since then. But we love
students.
Students are great tenants. Like a lot of people give students a hard time, but they're awesome. We've had such great experience with tenants. Our places are really nice. We get great students. No one has never, knock on wood, not paid their rent. No one's trashed the place. And you get consistent turnover, which is nice. Like every 2 to 3 years, you can reset rents. And especially with the student rental market lately, the rents have like absolutely skyrocketed, like beyond belief. So we've been able to take advantage of that, which has been great. But we made a lot of mistakes along the way, like, hired bad contractors, we had some issues with zoning. The city of Guelph went through some period where student rentals with 5 bedrooms were allowed and then weren't allowed. And so when they weren't allowed, we got kind of caught with the wrong zoning. Then we had to do some renovations that were really expensive, and they ended up switching the zoning back. So like there are a lot of kind of things to be learned there. And I think a lot of it was that we didn't have any sort of network, any sort of community. Like we were doing this by ourselves. We didn't know anybody else that were real estate investors. We didn't talk to anybody at the city, didn't talk to any, like we were doing it like as a silo because we didn't know any better. And now in kind of today's version with social media and everything that we've learned and all the people we've connected with, we would have done it so differently because we have resources now, right?
Yeah.
Like we have people we can talk to.
I think our biggest mistake was not finding that network earlier. Like if we had found Rain or like a group like that back in 2005 when we started, or even 2010, we would be so far ahead of where we're at now. Like it wasn't till, I think it was like 2017 that I think it was Sarah Larby's podcast that I stumbled upon first. And like, I didn't listen to any podcasts before, but for some reason I just started listening to podcasts, and hers was the first. And then from there on, the
whole world just opened up.
Yeah, we just learned so much more.
So much, yeah.
Learned all the things that we could have been doing that we hadn't been doing, and that like we kind of thought that having 5 rental properties at that point was, I guess we had 6. We had one in Thorold that we had sold, but we thought that we were kind of crazy taking on that kind of risk, having 6 rental properties at 30-something years old.
Because everybody told us we were crazy.
Yeah, like our immediate group of friends and family thought that we were kind of nuts. And then you hear about people who buy 30 or 40 rentals in a year. And then it's like, it kind of puts in perspective that like we were small potatoes.
You know what? And that's very interesting you say that too, because that was the exact same thing that I went through as well when I was at TD Bank.
Yeah.
And I really started to grow my portfolio. We started in 2008, but started really growing in 2010. And from 2010 to 2014, we bought a significant amount of properties. And I remember everybody at work, when I was telling them and showing them what I was doing, I'm like, you guys should do this. You should do this, right? Because this is when I started understanding inflation, and how my job wasn't going to keep up with it. And they were all like, it's dangerous. You're risking everything. Yeah. You have a wife and kids at home. The market is going to crash. Interest rates are going to explode. Like it was just all this negativity. Yeah. And then I realized that, well, I'm getting this information from people that are not where I'm trying to get to. But when you don't have that, that circle, or you're not getting the information from another source where you're trying to get to, it can actually be very scary. Or it can actually kind of give you that handcuff, like maybe I should sell everything. Yeah. Maybe I should stop what I'm doing.
Yeah, and we had Matt's much more adventurous and risk taker than I am, but we had so many conversations. Like Matt would always, I could tell he was working on something, he'd be researching properties. I could kind of see, but he wouldn't come to me until later. So we'd be researching properties, and I'm like, oh man, here we go again. He's going to want to buy another rental property. And I was always just like, I don't want to do it. I guess when we kind of started growing up, like we don't have kids, we plan on having kids, like we're growing our careers, like we're just everything's so busy. We want to buy our own house. I got all these excuses and all this fear. And Matt was always just like, no, this is what we should do. And I'm so thankful to him that he pushed forward and kept going. But I was always like the wet blanket on it, saying, this doesn't make sense. And it really wasn't until probably 2018, 2019 that I started to realize, like, wow, this real estate.
2020. I think it was like during COVID.
I was trying to give myself more credit. Okay, fine, whatever, 2020. But I started realizing, like, wow, like what we've done over the last 10 years, like this is life-changing. Like our properties have appreciated so much, and we were seeing cash flow, and we had just had 3 kids in a very short period of time, and I didn't want to go back to my 9 to 5, and this really gave us flexibility for me not to do that. But there was a lot of fear, and Matt really had to push along, but we'd ask, our parents or our friends, like, what do you think? We're looking at this property, and they'd be like, you guys are crazy. It's so stressful. You want to have a family. Like, you're not gonna be able to handle it. And it was just, we really had to kind of keep pushing and forging ahead. And I'm really obviously glad that we did, but there was a lot of fear at that time and a lot of uncertainty from me. Matt always seemed to get what we were doing more than I was, but
I want to touch on that. I think you touched on something really important there as well too, is that how have you guys been able to work through it as a couple? in buying properties? Because I know for myself and Darlene, like Darlene is a lot more conservative.
Yeah.
Where I'm kind of like, I'll jump in and then I'll figure it out and I'll swim. And she's like, hold on, let me dip my toes in first before we do this.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it now, it's a good balance, but you have to figure out how to make that work. How were you guys able to make that work? Because it sounds like you guys would we say it's fair to say that you guys are slightly opposite?
We are. I've come more
now,
to Matt's side. Yeah. Before, years ago, I would say that we were totally opposite in terms of risk taking. He just saw things a bit differently than I did, but we're much closer and more aligned. But he's still more. He's more aligned with risk than I am. I would say.
I kind of forget how I dealt with it back then, because it was kind of like 2017 and before that it was that we were kind of on different pages. 2018 and 2019 we kind of did nothing, because in 2017 we bought 2 properties right at the peak before the stress test came in, and what else happened?
The foreign ban, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we bought a property in March and
kids.
April. One that I kind of bought without telling Laura, and it.
So we had a 2-week-old baby.
Yeah, we had a 2-week-old baby. She wasn't into buying another property, and I bought a property with my best friend Adam. She wasn't really a supporter, and it turned out that it wasn't really a good property to buy, and that's the only property we've ever sold. But we made $100,000 on it, so it's not all bad. But the market kind of saved us on
story.
that.
Yeah,
What a horrible story.
It's a sad story. Yeah, but it was the market that saved us. It wasn't a good buy. It wasn't good. There was nothing good about it except the market.
No, it was a bad area. It was a bad house.
We got saved.
We bought it right before things dipped, and then we were probably it was worth $50,000 less than we had bought it for, and we said we'll just hold on to it until we can sell it and break even. And then COVID hit and things went crazy, and we sold it for $100,000 more than we bought it for. So
and that's our beautiful pool.
It was all fine, but I think 2017 with the market correction there scared us a little bit with buying too much at one time, and we had 3 little kids at home, and our construction company was kind of in a transitionary period. So we went 2018, 2019, and all of 2020 without buying anything, and then started buying in 2021 with some big, somewhat painful renos, and then didn't buy anything we didn't buy anything from mid 2021 to September of 2022, and then bought 4 properties in 4 months.
So you bought 4 properties starting in September 2022.
Yeah.
So this is when we'd almost say kind of closer to the bottom, getting close to the bottom there, right?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to do the stock strategy, dollar cost averaging, but it didn't really work that way. Somebody told me that the best time to buy is September and December as a buyer. Those are the best months to get a good deal. Mm-hmm. So the goal was buy a property in September and then buy another one in December. But then we ended up buying September, October, November, and December because
there's a lot of good deals.
Yeah, there was a lot of good deals. And
where were you buying them?
Those
Hamilton, Lindsay,
Peterborough.
Okay, so let's talk through. I want to really dive into you buying 4 properties in 4 different cities?
Or 3 different cities.
3 different cities. Sorry. Lindsay, Peterborough, Hamilton, and
I think there's 2.
There's 2 in Lindsay.
And 2 in Lindsay. Okay, walk us through that.
I wouldn't recommend that strategy.
Money
for
is
anybody.
very expensive, right? So, you're picking up, you believe, good deals. And what type of strategy are you guys now looking at with those 4 properties?
Yeah, so those 4, so they are actually 3 duplex conversions and 1, I guess you call it a triplex. It's a duplex with a garden suite. So those were just kind of deals we were looking to buy. So I think I mentioned earlier we had quite a bit of capital that we'd done a few refis and had some capital to play with, and we were kind of waiting to deploy it. So we had money kind of ready to go, and we had done 1 duplex conversion before we bought those 4, but we really like the duplex conversion. The numbers on them, these are in Lindsay, are very good. The rents are very high in my opinion, for Lindsay. And the properties are great. They're, bungalows, big lots. They're perfect for garden suites.
220-foot lots.
Yeah, like perfect for garden suites in the future.
What are the purchase prices for these properties? Approx, or the range?
Mid-fives.
Mid-fives.
Low fives.
Mid-fives.
Yeah.
Okay. And in 2022, they were going for what? Those are going for 7, 8.
Yeah,
Yes.
800,000, something like that.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're glad we didn't buy any then, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you bought them in the mid-fives. Okay.
yeah. And we found that we like the duplex. The tenants are great because we have brand new units, right? We're picking our own tenants. The places that we renovate, they're of a high quality. You get great tenants. Like we just really like the duplex space. We're like, hey, it worked well once. Let's do it again. So we bought a few more. And we, especially Matt, has been always kind of watching the Hamilton market and really interested in kind of the market fundamentals of Hamilton. And so somebody came to us with an off-market deal that just seemed like a steal of a deal. So we decided to take that one on as well, and like that it had an existing garage that we could convert into a garden suite. So we just kind of went really all in and just decided to take on a whole bunch of projects.
Okay. Now
yeah,
somebody's
so that's
listening and they're like, okay, how were you guys able to buy 4 properties in 4 months, right?
Yeah.
Were you using all your own capital, home equity lines of credit, joint ventures? How are you doing this?
Yes.
Mostly our own capital, a little bit of home equity lines of credit. We've got lines of credit on some of the rentals, and we've got a big one on our principal residence. No private money. We have one joint venture. Out of all our properties, we just have one joint venture that's with my friend Adam that we bought the property in Thorold with. We sold that one, and then a few years later, he wanted to buy another property. So one that we bought in Peterborough. Yeah, this one's a lot better property. But the property in the duplex conversion that we just finished in Peterborough was with him. Not a super typical joint venture structure. We're kind of more just 50-50 on everything. And then him and his fiance will look after day-to-day management of it. But it was kind of a special deal for a friend. We're not big joint venture people. Like we'd rather try to do as much as we can ourselves.
Right.
We try to do this for freedom, and we don't really want to be tied to too many partners. But for this one, it was good, and we might do more. We might do more joint ventures with them. But most of it was just refining properties, pulling money out.
Right.
Some money from our home equity line of credit, and then just some money that we had stockpiled over the year and a half that we didn't buy anything.
Okay. Yeah. So you're doing most of them yourself. You've done a couple joint ventures. What I found interesting though there is that you're letting them manage the property. Is there a reason? Is there a reason why?
Well,
I agree that there should be one manager.
Yeah.
We're trying to teach them. That's part of it, so that they can do it. They can do it on their own.
Yeah.
And also, we just kind of had to look at what value do each part, what value does each party bring to the table, and our value was finding the deal, knowing the areas, knowing the process, having the contractors, being able to oversee the construction, and their value was bringing a portion of the money, bringing the mortgage, and then managing the day-to-day.
She also did all the design, and
she did all the design too, and she did a wicked job on the design. And so far, it just seems like a good amount of value that we're each adding. And Laura deals with the day-to-day management for our other 10 properties, and it's just getting to be a lot to deal with day-to-day without a property manager. So the fact that they were willing to deal with the day-to-day for this one just helped.
It's just one less property to worry about. So
Right.
yeah, and they want to learn that too. And we're teaching them how the tenant screening. We went through all that process together so that we can teach them. So it worked out well.
I like that. I think that's a great way to do it for somebody who's looking to. This is their first investment property or second.
The first one was with the one in Thorold that we bought with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we weren't savvy enough to really teach them anything back then.
Right. But you are now.
Yeah.
And so what this does also too is it sets them up for success to be able to now go out and do maybe something on their own, or maybe do another joint venture with another family member or friend or somebody else completely different.
They can kind of rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're helping somebody else find some financial, whether it be freedom or stability or at least a nice nest egg at the end, right?
Yeah.
By using real estate, which I think is great. 'Cause I've done that with many of my partners as well too, to say, hey, look, I know I can do it, but why don't you learn to do it? Because then they also have you to lean on, to reach out to if they need help or assistance with anything, right?
For sure, yeah. It's been good. It's a nice, like, Adam's been, like, we've both known him since high school, and, like, he's just such a great friend. So we're, the more that we can, we're always talking to people about real estate, and the more we can help people, like, that's really what it's all about, right? To be able to share your knowledge and experience with other people. So it's been fun. And they're friends, so it's fun to hang out and talk real estate and also kind of get some work done too. So yeah, it's been a win-win.
How's it been with the renovations and managing 4 different projects all at the same time? Because you also have a renovation company, is that correct?
We have a construction company, but we don't really do renovations. We build parks and bridges and trails and transformer stations and other kind of strange things that we build.
That's interesting.
We have like
mix,
bulldozers and excavators and like heavy equipment like that. And we do mostly city contracts. So,
and this is your company?
Yeah.
If you partner with somebody else?
No.
Or really?
No. We started it with my parents 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we bought my parents out in 2020.
Wow. That's an interesting business.
Yeah.
So then, let's go back to the renovation. Managing 4 properties all at the same time.
Yeah.
That can be very daunting.
You know, I think it was 3 at a time. Was like the first one was done by the time the last one started, kind of thing. So we kind of had.
What's that? Oh, because the closings were different?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the renovation stages were different. We weren't renovating all at the exact same time. They were kind of staggered starts, whatever. And then one of them, we have a GC taking care of everything, and one in Hamilton. So Matt doesn't have to go there as often, but like we make a pretty good team. Like we figured out, like Matt handles all the technical construction stuff that I don't know, and then I usually do all the sourcing of materials and making sure that everything gets to site and that sort of thing, and like the administrative sort of side. But I think Matt's we're just really good at we figured out.
Right.
Yeah, and we have a really good team. Like we have people who we can really trust and trades that we can call in and things like that. So, I mean, it does get crazy from time to time, but we haven't had 4 active projects at the same stage at the same time. They've been some, permitting, some are in completion. Like it's been a mix kind of in that time period. So it's been more manageable.
I didn't ask this question. You obviously were working 9 to 5. You're no longer doing that anymore.
Yeah.
When did you quit?
So I didn't go back from my last mat leave, so that would have been in early 2020.
Okay.
So I was in HR for my whole career. So I do a little bit of consulting kind of on the side, but I work part-time in our construction company and then spend the rest of my time real estate and being a mom and all that sort of stuff.
What was that like? What was that experience like?
When
you finally said I'm out.
Yeah, it was weird. It was difficult. It's something that we had planned on for a couple of years. The plan was always to take over. Matt's parents were retiring, and I was going to take over his mom's job. And so that was kind of always the plan. When it actually came to fruition, I actually wasn't sure if I liked it. It was hard to leave your career.
You didn't seem to love it the first year.
I didn't. I mean, it was a hard year. It was COVID too. It's just kind of a disaster from kind of all angles. But it was hard because I had so much identity wrapped up in my career before. So to leave that and kind of go into something that really is more Matt's company and kind of that business was difficult. But I've doing some consulting helps, and now I really like the place that I'm in now, and I think I value my time freedom a lot more. And I've kind of come out of a different just stage and season in life that it's pretty good now. So
awesome.
It took me a long time to realize, like, if we want to go on vacation, I don't have to ask anybody. Like we can just go, or I can, we love mountain biking, so we can take off on, a Monday afternoon and go mountain biking. Like that's great. And I never had that before, obviously. So
I think the hard part in the beginning, at least for me anyways, is just trying to find your footing.
Yeah.
Trying to find like, what does my day-to-day activities look like? And just trying to figure that all out. Yeah. But it sounds like you've got it all figured out now.
I don't know about all figured out, but making progress. Yeah.
You're making progress.
Yeah. And really funny, something that's fulfilling, because I knew how fortunate I was to be able to have the option not to go back from mat leave. Like so many moms dream of not being able, not having to go back to 9 to 5 and investors and that sort of thing. And I was super lucky, but I think that a lot of what I was missing was a fulfillment piece of having that kind of identity with my career, but then also doing work that I found really fulfilling. So I kind of stumbled a little bit, but I feel like I found that now. Like I really do love the real estate work we're doing. I love working for a construction company. I'm finding a lot more fulfillment in all the work that I'm doing. So that's been a big change. So like I really enjoy it. I have a great life right now. I'm very lucky, and I get to spend time with our kids. I drop them off at school. I pick them up, bring them to all their activities. Like life is crazy and busy, but I'm just so fortunate that I have that flexibility that I can be there for my kids and do the things that we want to do.
Well, the cool thing about it as well too is that because you're an entrepreneur now, you can be creative. You can pick and choose what it is that you want to work on.
Yeah.
And then, because we talked about this before we turned the mics on, is that there's a part of your business that you don't like doing.
Yes.
And now you're like, I think it's bookkeeping.
Yes.
And now you're like, I need to outsource this.
Yes.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
But if some people love bookkeeping, they can keep it in-house if they want to, right? And that's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And you can really pick on your strengths too. Like, I'm not a good bookkeeper. So why am I doing that? I'm providing zero value and I'm just really messing it up.
Right.
So I better outsource it and focus on the things that we're good at, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to those 4 properties again, I think this is really important.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are they now at this point in time? How long are these renovations taken to complete, and are any of them completed, and what type of rents are you getting?
Yeah.
And are they working? Are they cash flowing?
Yes, all the above. I'll let Matt
2
explain.
of them are completed, one in Lindsay, one in Peterborough. Those are both duplex conversions. The one in Lindsay is on a big lot that I think one day we'll build a garden suite, maybe next year, maybe the year after, something like that. As far as rent, we typically split utilities on everything that we possibly can, and we haven't really figured out whether this is a great long-term solution or not. But we have a theory that there's kind of a ceiling to rental prices on duplexes. Like most of the areas that we are investing in, the ceiling's like somewhere around $2,500 a month for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath upper unit, and somewhere around $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom, 1 or 2-bath basement unit. But we don't think that people really seem to care all that much about whether that's $2,500 plus utilities or including utilities. It's like I don't know, for some reason, people don't really want to go over that $2,500 a month as the lease price. So if we can make everything excluding utilities, then it's like a few $100s a month more cash flow, and it's
more control.
Yeah, it's more control and kind of limits our liabilities of hydro prices going up or gas prices going up or water price going up or a tenant abusing the amount of utilities they're using. So we've done all kinds of different strategies we have one duplex that has combi boilers on both floors that has like the new style radiator heaters and a combi boiler that heats through those radiators. In Hamilton right now, we're doing heat pumps in all the units.
Yeah, that's the first time I heard about those combi boilers. That was called.
I don't know anybody else who's done it. I don't even really know where we came up with it.
Yeah, I've got a listing coming up, and he was telling me this combi boiler. I'm like, what the hell is a combi boiler? But essentially, like it's like a radiator, and it blows, I guess, over these coils, and then it goes through the vent. So there's still like a duct system.
No, it's just the same. Like the old buildings that you go through in Peterborough or Toronto or Oshawa that have like the old cast iron radiators, they would all have a boiler. So it's just a new boiler system, but they call it combi because it also does the domestic hot water in your house. So it's like one. It looks like
looks like a spaceship.
No, it looks like a hot water on demand, like those ones that mount on your wall, the on demand or hot water tank. But there's no tank. But half of the unit heats and circulates water for the radiators, and half of the unit heats water for your shower and your sinks and stuff like that. So that's why they call it combi, like combination. But the radiators aren't like old cast iron, like they're like maybe 2 inches thick now. You can even use like fancy radiators. Like instead of having a radiator in a bathroom, you can have towel warmers that the water circulates through the towel bars, heats up your towel, but also heats up the bathroom. Or you can put them in a concrete slab and do like radiant heat in the slab. But for us, they work well. There's a lot of the bungalows that we buy, the ceilings in the basement aren't super high, like they're 7 feet. And then if you have duct work, then they're down to like barely over 6 feet. And then you end up with these doorways that are kind of tight. So the nice thing with the combi boilers is you can get rid of all the ductwork and you can have just like a flat.
Is that what you did with some of these units? Just got rid of the ductwork and put these in? Because that's always an issue when you go into some of these properties where they have the ductwork and they're low and you're like, this is not going to work. And then you leave.
Yeah.
So this is another solution that allows you now to say, hey, look, I can pick this deal up because I know how to actually look at this now with some creative eyes.
Yeah, that has helped. Yeah. So I guess to get back to your question, so 2 of them are done. There's one Lindsay and one Peterborough that are done, stabilized, rented out. rent it out. And then the Hamilton one will be done in the fall.
No, I sure hope not. Nah.
I don't know.
Sure hope
He's
not.
managing
End of
that
July.
one.
He'll be done end of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then what's the fourth one?
The fourth one is
the other one in Lindsay.
That just started about a month ago. Okay. It sat vacant for 6 or 8 weeks while we were getting other projects done, but just how it is sometimes.
And so they're all cash flowing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you using HELOCs or are you using cash? I know I'm getting personal here because this is obviously an important question for some people where they run the numbers and like, these
a little bit of both. You wouldn't want to see our bank account like it's HELOC going to this property, shareholder loan from our construction company if we have a lot of money in the construction company,
there's a lot of
to our
moving
holdco
pieces.
sometimes, and then paying it back.
Our accountant
I know
loves us.
all about that. Like when I go into the bank, don't they look at you like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I get a lot of looks.
Yeah, and you need to have a good accountant to also help you through all that. Because these shareholder loans and moving it from one company and corporation to another, you got to know what you're doing.
It gets
and then you got to remember, hold on, I did a shareholder loan. I got to put that thing back in whatever X amount of years, right?
Yeah, so it's been a mix of so we had some cash from other refinance and that sort of stuff, and some cash that we had personally that we put into our holding company. And then we have financed some with HELOCs and kind of a mix of maybe finance some of the renovations with the HELOC and some of it cash. It's been a bit of a mix, but once the renovations are all done, like we've refinanced them, they're all cash flowing positively, and like they're good performance.
Yeah, even after the refi, they're all cash flowing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any mistakes? Any hiccups?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. How much time do you have?
I got all kinds. Let's go. What was the big mistake that you made with buying those 4 properties during that time?
I don't think on those ones.
We haven't realized those mistakes yet. I think it's still very soon, but
okay.
I think one mistake we made before that was we bought this triplex in Peterborough that I think is probably the most valuable triplex in Peterborough, or at least based on the amount of money that we have into it.
Like depends on whose value you're asking.
But we bought it for $850. This big old building downtown Toronto.
Yeah, it's huge. Not downtown Toronto.
Downtown
Peterborough.
I wish it was downtown Toronto, but big old brick building that used to be a rooming house, but it was considered a legal triplex, or I think a legal non-conforming triplex with the city. And we had a rental budget of, I think, $175,000 it was, to split all utilities. Actually, I think at that time we weren't planning on splitting utilities. We didn't know about that then, but to just do a full reno, because this place was kind of a mess. So we were going to spend $175,000 doing a reno, and then we found out that the existing boiler was on its last legs, and the insurance company wouldn't insure us if we kept that boiler. So we're going to have to change the boiler that heated all 3 units. And then at that point, we decided, okay, we want to split utilities. So we went with 3 combi boilers for that unit, and then 3 ductless air conditioning units for that building. And then there was way more knob and tube in it than we thought. The seller told us it was almost completely removed before in a different reno, and we found out that it not very much of it was removed. So we ended up doubling our budget and spending, I think, like $330,000 renovating this triplex.
Yeah.
So now we have
it's got a happy ending.
$1.2 million in it, and it was the first time that we ever got a variable mortgage. We were always like, we're just going to go fix mortgages on everything. But then we were planning on burring this one, and we didn't really want to have to break a fixed mortgage. So we went to the variable mortgage, and then rates started going up like crazy before we could refinance out of it. So we just never have refinanced out of it on that one. But now it's a beautiful triplex. It's got 10-foot ceilings on all the units.
The rents are super strong.
All the units are above grade. The rents are super strong. I think we get almost $7,000 a month rent for that triplex.
Yeah. Wow.
The cash flows like a few $1,000s a month, because we still haven't hit our trigger rate for some reason.
Okay.
We thought that we would have, but we're not asking. They're not telling. So we're just going to ride it out.
Ride it. Our amortization would be like 200 years at this point. But
I think our amortization is negative right now, but It is what it is.
So what, you think your mortgage is probably going up?
I think I calculated a while ago that our mortgage is going up $10,000 a year right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that a BMO product? I think it is. I think Bank of Montreal
It is.
does
You're
that.
right. Yes, it is. It's static. Yeah, one of the only ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to let that ride.
Yeah, maybe depends who's asking, but
Yeah. So it sounds like most of the time, though, you have been locking in a lot of the interest rates for your
Literally
properties.
every single property except that one.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like we have, I think, 5 mortgage rates at 2% or 2.1% for 5 years. So we got really lucky on the timing there. That was by default, not design.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we'll enjoy riding those out, but that was just luck.
Now, any concern with some of these properties that are locked in and where interest rates are, nobody knows where they're going to go, but it seems like they might potentially be going up higher. Are any of your properties going to potentially be coming up for renewal? Are you taking a look at those? And then what's your strategy for those properties?
We've had some renew in the past 6 or 8 months. Like most of it was properties that were on 5-year fix. So I think they were more like student rentals that we got the mortgage back in 2017, 2018. So they weren't super low then. I think they went from like 3.5 to we just did a few mortgages at like 4.85 for 3 years, 4.89 for 3 years. That wasn't too bad. I think we did one at 5.21 at the end of last year. But it wasn't huge jumps because like from 3.5 to 5 isn't terrible. And then I think the next,
and you should be working those rates anyways into your performance.
Oh yeah, we were never.
We didn't
running
do performance
rates
back then though.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, but yeah,
You didn't do performance.
No, the ones that we bought like since 2020, like we never ran mortgage rates at 2% because we knew it wasn't going to last, right? So we'd run it at 5 or 6%. Assuming that at some point it would be there. So, because we had seen those rates before, we knew 2% was super cheap. So we had that, I guess, foresight to run the numbers that way.
So many people thought they were going to stay at 2% for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a good run, right?
It was a
nice.
great run.
Money was real cheap. It was nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why, like around September, end of September, we started doing the red line series. I don't know if you remember that.
Those
where
were
it was like, because we could see where it was going.
Yeah.
And I got caught a little bit as well too. And I was like, okay, hold on. Everybody, you should be running your numbers.
Yeah.
Like, don't think that the experts saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's going to go back down to 3% and 2%." It's like, but figure out where your red line is. Figure out when. Like, don't worry about what I'm doing or anybody else is doing. Like, you got to figure out what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Because if they do go higher, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to know that. And there was a time where we sat down and went through our numbers of our whole portfolio to see like, okay, this is bad. People are talking it's going to be bad. Like, can we survive this? Our property's okay. And because, as I mentioned earlier, we're pretty boring investors. We're pretty conservative. Like, our properties were not at high leverage at all. So that gave us a lot of comfort knowing that, our loan to value is still quite low and our properties are still cash flowing. But we did go through that exercise to make sure that like, we're okay. We can still buy. Like everything is still in the black. Like we're all good. Because I mean, everybody has that fear when you hear about it coming at you from every angle, right? So we did go through that to make sure that everything was fine and we're still good. And we knew we were okay to continue to buy.
Right.
I think we don't have any refis coming up until spring of 2026 now. So it's kind of a downside that we don't have the opportunity to refi and pull out money until then. But hopefully by spring of 2026. Rates are down into the 3s. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. What's next for you guys? Like, what are you going to do? So you got one more property left, I think, to out of the 4.
To finish.
Yeah, we probably got
2
months left on the last duplex conversion, and then
that'll be done in July. There's no way it's going to be done in fall.
That's a different one. Sorry, we have 2 projects under construction now. So
Hamilton and Lindsay.
The one in Hamilton I think will be done in July. It's the duplex is getting trim and doors now. The garden suite was just drywalled, but I think it's going to come together quick. And then we just finished framing and we're just doing rough and electrical and plumbing and Lindsay and the duplex conversion there. But that crew we have on it, they're pretty quick. So I think both will be done like July, August. And then really we're trying to figure out what our next move is. Like we've got 3 lots that are perfect garden suite lots in Lindsay that we would like to build garden suites. We're not sure whether it's the best use of our capital. It's pretty expensive. Like I think most people that are building like 2-bedroom garden suites are spending $250,000 to $400,000 kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think one of our clients is building one right now, and I think it's coming. They said 250, but I think it's a little higher than that. I think maybe 275 to 3.
Yeah, depending on size and everything.
Right.
Yeah, so we have some. So we could look at that, and then we're looking to continue to grow and scale, but we realize that we don't want to own like 20 duplexes or continue to do those conversions. They're good for us, and we're good at them, and the numbers are great. But we need to get into bigger things. But we keep looking at bigger deals, like bigger multifamilies, and the numbers just aren't making sense. Like our duplexes just perform so much better. So we're trying to kind of get our head around that. But I think really with our skill sets, like with Matt's construction background and kind of technical expertise, like we should get into some smaller development type stuff. So we're kind of looking at that. We're looking at some mixed use. We have something under contract right now that we're looking at. But yeah, we're not really sure. We have this conversation like a lot about what we should do next. A lot.
Would you move into Toronto with Bill 23 and some of the changes that are happening there? Have you thought about that?
We did actually look at a property in Toronto, but
yeah, we were looking at properties in Toronto before Bill 23 came about, and I was kind of shocked when looking at Toronto that the rents in Toronto typically aren't that much higher than Oshawa, Peterborough, Lindsay, Hamilton. Like
compared to price, yeah.
If a 3-bed unit in Oshawa rents out for $2,600 or $2,700 a month or $2,500 a month, most of the places that I was looking at in Toronto, it wouldn't be that much higher. Like it might be 3,000, but the property value was double, and it was just hard to make any of the numbers work. But now with Bill 23 and being allowed to have 4 units, or I think up to 5 units, and on a property, I think it can work. One of my hesitations is we have a good team of sub-trades in the Oshawa, Peterborough, Lindsay area. Like they'll travel around there, no problem. They won't go into Toronto. So
that's the hard part, right? That traffic is... because we did a property tour over in Little Portugal, and man, it's hell getting over there.
It's not fun.
No. So you need a crew down there.
Yeah.
Because to take that crew from your Durham market or from your Kawartha regions, they want nothing to do with that. They're used to the 115.
Exactly.
And I think even you need a GC there that's used to the permits for having a bin on the street and how to coordinate deliveries and stuff like that. Like I guess it depends on where you're buying in Toronto. You could buy in Scarborough, and it's probably not going to be a whole lot different in the way you work than it is if you're working in Oshawa. But if you buy downtown Toronto, like just the way that you have to plan a project is different because everything's so tight.
Yeah, but it is crazy how the rents don't change significantly, isn't it? Like you can go to Cobourg, you can go to Trenton, you can go to Belleville. Like yes, okay, they're a little bit lower, but not like
$100 or $200 a unit per month, right?
Right, exactly. And then we look at the price of homes. You know, it makes further sometimes to pull out a little bit from the city. But obviously, as long as you're looking at your fundamentals and the numbers make sense, and you can actually get somebody to move into this renovated property that you've done now, right?
Exactly.
I think it might suggest though that the Toronto rents still have some room to go up, and potentially the rents in the tertiary markets have room to come down. Like I don't know if it's the COVID effect of the work from home that have pushed up the rents in those tertiary markets, and maybe they're not going to be as resilient as Toronto. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That's a good point. Before we do wrap it up, what are you seeing now for rents in Peterborough? Have you seen that they've come down a little bit? Are you finding it a little bit more difficult to find tenants? Because we've noticed that a bit. Yeah,
so when we did our last duplex conversion, we just rented out like in the last 2 months. We actually just filled the 1 unit like yesterday. It was a lot harder to find good tenants. So we found that the response we were getting from our ad was like 10% of what we were getting before, and the quality was like insanely low compared to what we had. So we really had to hold out. Like we had to be really patient. We did drop our price like by a little bit, I think.
$25.
$25. Okay. Right. But we had to be, we ended up trying some virtual staging pictures and things like that to try to see if we can get some more interest. We are super picky with our tenants, but we will never not be picky with our tenants. But we found the difference. The difference in rent and the demand has changed significantly since when we rented our triplex out I guess it would have been a year ago.
Yeah.
But interestingly, we found we had a unit in our triplex, a 1-bed, come up around the same time, and we our door was knocked, beaten down to people trying to get into this 1-bedroom. It was $1,500 a month, compared to we had a beautiful 3-bed and a beautiful 2-bed that we could barely get anyone to go and look at. So that was really interesting.
That is a good strategy. I like that.
Yeah,
so what you're saying is that if you have less bedrooms, there's more demand for it.
Huge. And the tenant pool for the 1-bedroom, I could have rented that place 15 times over. Every tenant was I'd rent to you and to you and to you. They were great. They're all working professionals, and so it kind of got us thinking when we had both our duplex and our 1-bedroom on the same time. I'm I really wish we'd taken that 3-bed and separated it into 2 1-bed units, which you can't do in Peterborough now, but perhaps in the future. I think that might be a really cool strategy, because there was such a crazy demand for that 1-bed and exceptional tenants.
Was that more in the downtown core in Peterborough?
So our triplex is in downtown core-ish, and our duplex is in suburbia.
Southeast corner.
Yeah.
Southeast corner. That's the one with the 1-bedroom.
No,
the 1-bedroom
is the 1-bedroom in downtown.
Okay, and that one had a huge...
It's insane.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. We have seen a decrease, I think, in the amount of people that were coming out to the rentals.
Yeah.
However, which is really important, and you touched on, which I think is great, and it just shows the experience that you guys have, is being patient.
Yeah.
Not just jumping. Because somebody who's inexperienced and 6 weeks or 2 months go by, they're like, I'm never going to get this thing rented out.
You panic,
but sometimes you just got to just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait, be patient.
Yeah.
Right? The right tenant will come. Don't panic and jump on anybody, because then now you got a year of hell.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been there, and it's no fun.
No, definitely not. No, we were patient with this one, and we're always just so used to the rentals just kind of flying off the market. They're within minutes, they're gone. But this one, it didn't even take that long. I think it took 3 weeks, but it felt like an eternity for us, because we're used to them being so fast.
Yeah.
But
we're also
we just
used to, usually we put up an ad, and then within 3 or 4 days, we have 20 applicants. We send them a single key, we send them a Google form to fill out to figure out whether we're going to show the property to them or not. Pick 7 or 8 people and kind of have an open house. And then we have the pick of the litter, usually, of people who want to rent it. And this time it was several trips to Peterborough to meet one group, and it was a little bit different, but
worked out okay.
We were pushing for pretty high rents too, because it had really high finishes, and the ceilings in the basement were over 8 feet. We thought that we could get higher rents than a typical duplex, and we did. It just took a long time.
Yeah. Right. Matt, Laura, thank you guys very much for coming in.
Thank you.
This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, us too. Thank you.
And especially now with everything that's happening in the market, there's a lot of fear in the market. And I think what you guys are doing, you're showing that, look, you can still buy in this market.
Yeah.
You just have to be strategic. You have to know what you're doing, run your numbers, and have a good partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And complements each other.
Yeah. We're lucky we have each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Any last words of advice that you'd like to share?
Advice. I would say, like we talked about earlier, is just finding your network. And I've mentioned this in the past in different chats, but finding social media has been an incredibly powerful tool for us to connect with other investors and connect with wouldn't have ever found out about your podcast or met you or any of the other people. So having a social media account and just kind of putting yourself out there, sharing your story has been absolutely incredible. And I would say that probably one of the number one things that's really changed my way of thinking and my mindset towards real estate and towards risk and what's risky, not risky, whatever. And really just it really has changed the course of our life. It seems kind of silly to say that Instagram has done that, but it's true. It's had a massive impact because the people that we've been able to connect with have been incredibly life-changing. So I would say that just get out there, network, talk to people, share what you're doing, just be curious, and you'll learn so much from what's out there. It's been really amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because you know why? A lot of times people say, oh, Instagram is, they look at it from the negative side of things. Yeah, there's a lot of negative stuff on there, but you can use it for positive.
Oh, yeah.
And it can help change your life. It really can. And the people that I've met in the podcast that I've done,
oh my gosh,
even meeting like Sarah Larby and Corey McKinnon, and these are people that I've all met on Instagram. And it's incredible. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
My little piece of advice would be to try to figure out an aspect of real estate, or even if it's not real estate, investing in some way that you actually like doing. Because I kind of think about it like if you ever go to the gym and you see somebody who is in great shape, whether they're super muscular or great runner or something like that, you're never going to find somebody who is in great shape for an extended period of time that hates the type of workout that they're doing. They don't go to the gym and lift weights every day and hate it. They've kind of found the aspect of fitness that they like, and it allows them to do it long term. And I think it's kind of the same about real estate. Like the way that we are doing real estate now, it takes more discipline for us not to buy a property than it does to buy a property. Like we love it. We love the transformations. We love meeting the tenant. We don't always love the day-to-day maintenance requests and bookkeeping and stuff like that. But overall, we love what we're doing. And if you get into this business and you don't like a certain aspect of it, try to figure out a way to outsource that or shift your strategy. Like maybe you'd be better in short-term rentals, or maybe you'd be better in student rentals, or maybe you're a better wholesaler. Maybe you don't want to deal with any tenants, you just want to wholesale properties. But I think that you're going to be a lot more successful in this if you find the part of real estate that you enjoy doing versus if it's just a grind all the time and you're just doing it for money. Like you're not going to last long enough because it's a marathon. This game is not a sprint.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice, guys. Honestly, I appreciate your time. And
thanks, Gary.
If anybody wants to learn more about you guys, how do they find you? How do they contact you? Obviously,
Instagram. Yeah. So we're on Instagram at Sydney_investments. So it's SIDNEY_investments. And feel free to reach out. Always love to chat real estate and happy to help anybody that we can. And thanks for having us. This was fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary.
Take care.